Dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, I warmly welcome you to this research colloquium. This colloquium is the second one held in Jyväskylä. Namely, 2008 we had the first one where we were concentrating more on cultural policy research and its conceptual, spatial and temporal approaches. We were asking what is the relevance of the concepts like national, art, rational, institutionalism, space and sphere for understanding theory and practices of cultural policy. We invited our colleagues from all Nordic countries and to this first colloquium. After this, we also hosted both the Nordic and World conferences on cultural policy. And now, thanks to docent Mats Rolén, we are organizing a second colloquium in collaboration with Addeto and the Foundation for Cultural Policy Research, CUPORE. By us, I mean the unit of cultural policy at the Department of Social Sciences and Philosophy. We are responsible for the master's degree programs in cultural policy. We offer programs both in Finnish and English. In addition, we have a doctoral program and we are in charge of National Multidisciplinary Doctoral School on Cultural Policy. It's a part of the Finnish doctoral program on social sciences. Our unit is unique in Finland, internationally very well networked and celebrated its 20th anniversary last year. Some of our former students nowadays holding professional positions in the field of cultural policy have also joined us today. In cultural policy research, we've used to have close connection between researchers from the Nordic countries. In the biennial Nordic conferences, Nordic journals and research project, we have analyzed cultural policy from many aspects. Some comparative studies have also been carried out. We know how to typify Nordic cultural policies, and we can recognize some doctrines and some Nordic schools of thought in cultural policy research, which are conceptualizing the main themes of cultural policy, cultural politics. In our analysis, we often divide the Nordic countries into two types based on their historical background. There are plenty of similarities between Sweden and Denmark, while at the same time in Finland, Norway and Iceland share some similarities of their own. Denmark and Sweden have been independent states for hundreds of years, and not surprisingly, they base their cultural policy on feudal and aristocratic traditions and make use of the traditional institutions in establishing their constitutional democracies. Norway, Finland and Iceland, on the other hand, are newly created nation-states, and they have obviously developed their national cultural policies and public cultural institutions with a much shorter time span. Socially, the differences between countries are also substantial. Denmark and Sweden have an aristocratic and bourgeois cultural heritage, while Norway, Finland and Iceland were dependent on agriculture and fishing. In addition, state-employed civil servants have played a crucial role in politics and culture in Norway, Finland and Iceland. Professor Petri Karonen will guide us to these questions today the historical conditions of cultural policy. Researchers in cultural policy have used to speak about the Nordic model, so-called architect model or welfare model. Many articles and books have written on the similarities and dissimilarities between Nordic countries. From 1920s onwards, the social democratic movement and its allies in Denmark, Norway and Sweden were active in promoting the kind of cultural welfare policy that reached full blossom in 1960s. The process varied somewhat from country to country. In Finland, a similar consensus to that on the 1920s in the other Nordic countries was reached only 1960s, after decades of recuperation from the wars. The histories of Sweden and Finland have taken different kinds of steps in this regard. Thinking about the development of cultural policy and cultural administration during the years 1960 and 1975, we can say that that time was very active and intensive both in Sweden, Finland and other Nordic countries. The states published very important committee reports titled New Cultural Policy. The first one came from Denmark, then from Sweden and Norway and Finland. The reports translated many international discussions into national cultural policy agendas in the Nordic countries. Cultural democracy and the democratization of culture were aims which were realized as an increase in decentralization, local democracy and socio-cultural animation. During this welfare political turn, many reports aiming to increase the inhabitants' access to cultural activities were published. A new wave since 1990s that has swept over all countries is the creativity and creative economy. The ideological commitment is completely different now. This development too changed the language in cultural policy. The desired quality of the partnerships and connections of cultural efforts to strengthen national, regional and local competitiveness. The relationship between Sweden and Finland has always been a special kind. I'm very grateful that Mats Rolén from Addeto contacted me and proposed this kind of seminar. We researchers have not had many possibilities to concentrate on analysis and comparisons of cultural policies between Sweden and Finland. Today and tomorrow we will compare cultural policies by asking, firstly, how centralized or decentralized are structures and practices of cultural policy in Finland and Sweden? And secondly, what kind of arts council system we have in Sweden and Finland? How it has been developed to meet the challenges of future better? Both in Sweden and Finland, the role of civil society has always been very important, but at the same time very dissimilar. How civil societies with various actors find ways to answer new challenges in the fields of culture is our third question. The unit of cultural policy, our unit, launched a new international master's degree program in cultural policy just recently. We received applications from all over the world. It was fascinating to read what sort of expectations and hopes the applicants had from the program. It soon became clear that despite the very differences we are about to discuss today and tomorrow, BA-level students from different parts of the world regarded the Nordic countries as a certain kind of whole. They had hopes to learn about the Nordic society, Nordic cultural policy model, and perhaps apply their knowledge then back home. A couple of these kind of applications came from countries which have experienced a rapid economic growth during recent decades. What about culture? Students asked. At the same time, it was truly an interesting experience to read and hear how the applicants defined cultural policy and, for example, how they saw the role of government in this decade. It was delightful to notice that the applicants understood the scope of cultural policy very broadly and were aware of the connections and overlappings it has with other sectors. They mentioned social problems, human rights, cultural diplomacy, multiculturalism, and conflict resolution, just to mention a few. Additionally, it stood out that it is a generation that grew up in a globalized and digitalized world. In this environment, cultural policies are facing new challenges which the applicants were very interested in. Some had interest in developing new kinds of revenue systems to secure the income sources of artists in a digital era, while others had a more institutional approach. They wanted to study how the globalizing world challenges the role of one of the key actors in the field of cultural policy, nation state. With these thoughts in mind, I look forward to the colloquium. And I will thank you all for coming to Jyväskylä. And I hope that we have today and tomorrow inspiring conversations and analyses that deepen our cooperation. And what I will add more is that in the program we have 6:30 end of the day 1. It's not end. We will have a cocktails, so I can invite you to have a cocktails after the last session. Thank you. And now, what is Addeto and how can we use it? Addeto.com, I guess, yes. And how can we use it? And so Mats Rolén and Reta Kettunen, the floor is yours, please.
Dear friends, dear Anita, thank you so much for the kind words and the fine introduction of the colloquium. We have been very happy to make these preparations today together with you and with Sari. And also I would, of course, include CUPORE and Ritva in these words. And as a matter of fact, I have been working as project advisor for this Addeto portal project. I'm an historian in my professional background, but most of my professional life I've been working with research administration at a Swedish research funding foundation called Riksbankens Jubileumsfond. You can say I'm looking to one of my former colleagues, Torbjörn Eng, I would say, the leading Swedish private foundation for funding research in humanities and social science. So I'm not pretending to be a professional in culture policy research. Maybe I was professional in history many times, many years ago. But anyhow, the portal Addeto has somewhat interesting background, also connected to history, of course. And it's not because of me, but it's because of the things that happened 2008 and 2009, when we had what in Swedish is called Märkesåret 2009. I don't know what it was called in Finland, but anyhow, it was a lot of activities in order to remember the common history between Finland and Sweden, but also that we have a common history still, and that we have had a common history also during the 19th and 20th century, and also that there was a unanimous opinion between the governments in Sweden and Finland that let's do more things together. And in order to do more things together, I mean, two rather small countries to be competitive, I think we can gain both to work more together. And in order to work more together, we have to know more of each other. So maybe that is one important explanation to why this project, because it's not an institution, it's not an agency, it's a project still. Why the idea was born, because as in many high-level anniversary celebrations, there are a lot of beautiful dinner talks and declarations, and Sweden and Finland also had a common government meeting in Tavastuhus during 2009, and the countries signed documents, and they paid a lot of attention to collaboration in research, and even to open up the research councils in Sweden and Finland. I mean, Finlands Akademi and Vetenskapsrådet, that you possibly should be able to apply for research grants from the other country. What has happened? Nothing, I would say. So that's why the foundation, Kulturfonden för Sverige och Finland, decided let's do something, because the government, not at least in Sweden, are doing nothing. So let's do something that will keep the positive atmosphere around 2009 also into the future. So let's make a kind of new facility for communication of research and news about our countries. That was the basic idea. Let's do something. And of course, we were aware of that there are numerous of internet portals trying to inform everybody about everything. So it's a hard competition to set up something new. What is the idea by doing like this? So the idea was that we should concentrate on Sweden and Finland and to create facilities that would make it possible to rather easily find good, relevant research results in the humanities and social sciences. So we don't get 3 million hits. Instead, we could find 300 relevant hits if we were interested in, well, culture policy, welfare, politics, language, minority issues, whatever. So that was the idea, to make something new. And this is live right now, and this is available in Finnish and Swedish. Maybe I could show that I'm not telling I'm telling the truth. So let's see what happens if I click. This is the most dangerous part. Fantastic. To do things live is always a challenge. So this is the front page of Addeto, and why this strange word? I hope you notice that I'm trying to pronounce it the Finnish way, because in Swedish you would say Addeto, but here I know Addeto, it sounds. No, we couldn't really find the proper name of this facility. We had this Forskning och kunskap om Sverige och Finland. And we tried to translate this both into English and to Finnish, but we never could find a good name. So then the director of the foundation, he just got the idea, well, what do we want to do? Yes, we want to add knowledge, and we want to have a kunskap, knowledge, tieto. So yeah, I don't know if it's the best of abbreviation, but it was an attempt anyhow. Unfortunately, I have noticed that today in Sweden there are a number of firms, companies with a similar name to Addeto. Not exactly Addeto, but well, here it is right now. So that's the explanation to the name. And of course, we had some examples that we wanted to learn from when we started the project, because there were a number of activities. And for me personally, I have had some experience from, let's see if I can find this one. Let's go for it. I have some experience from this portal, Lab for Culture, that I hope at least you who are working with culture policy research have seen. This was set up by the European Culture Foundation 2006, and I was chairing the steering committee for the lab for some years. And the idea was to communicate different kinds of information targeted both to cultural practitioners, artists, whatever, but also to research. So this was one idea that I had in mind when I was asked to be part of the preparation of the Addeto. And this one is, when we started to invent this one, I mean, Facebook wasn't even invented. There was nothing of this kind. So we thought we were innovative when we had some kind of forum facility on this portal. So because we started planning this 2003, 4 maybe, and we was live on the air, so to say, 2006. So this was one personal experience from my side, and of course, one of my special babies is, of course, this one, Young Researchers Forum, where we also have had, well, there is still a prize for young researchers, Culture Policy Research Award, that's connected to this investment. So this was one of the ideas that I had in mind. There were, of course, other examples as well. We can take, let's go for this one. It's called Forskning.se, and it exists also in English. So this is a kind of a portal that is presenting mostly academic research from Swedish universities in a popular form, so that you can get the latest news of which dissertations have been published, etc., etc. And there is also, the target group is also outside of academia. It's for school teachers, for schools, for journalists, etc. But you can get a quick overview. And this is a much bigger platform than our little platform, so to say. So that I have been on board of this one too, so that was also part of my background. So, I think then, of course, I should just add, before I forget it, this Forskning.se is going to become a national portal in the future, where you could find almost all Swedish research presented. And it has a strange name, and it doesn't even exist. But Torbjörn, my chair in this steering committee, it has a name. It's called Svekris, SWECRISS. Okay, so it has the ambition to be a new thing, and that's developed by the team behind this Forskning.se. But that comes maybe next year or something like that. So some of the inspirations. And then let's go back to the Addeto and see if I dare to present it a bit. So I think that, as I mentioned, we are a small team, and we shall see. I don't dare to have the Finnish version, then I would click in the wrong way. But this is about the project as such. We are a small team working right now. Formally, we have the editorial board, you can say. It's Jessica Melin Hirschfeldt, she's the project leader. She works for the Kulturfonden, and I am an advisor. And then we have 3 freelance journalists. Jonas Lindholm is here, sitting over there, works from Helsinki. Mikaela von Kyglen, she works right now from Berlin, but she's from Helsinki really from the beginning. Bengt Lindroth is an old-timer. He has been correspondent for Swedish radio, television in Helsinki for many years, also working for leading Swedish newspapers about Finland and Sweden. So, and when, of course, we have a translator, so it's a small team, and so there, this is the whole thing behind it. And then we also can use material from the Finnish embassy in Stockholm, kind of weekly news, you could say. So this is part of what we do, and let's see we have a part called Nyheter, news here, and this is updated every week with the latest news. And Jonas has been writing a number of these articles, trying to map what's happening in the both of the countries. And these links are you can just click them and see what has Jonas been writing here. Then you have an article here, etc. So, and there is also archives here. Have a news archives somewhere. Yeah. So, and here you can see the very start of the whole thing, the last one. Let's see if we can find it. Yeah. So we started in August last year. We were looking to find editors and writers, and we managed after a while. And let's see, now it's a slow connection. Let's do it this way. So here it started in August with some articles, and also we were covering a conference in Turku, in Åbo, in August. That's when it all started, when we became live on the internet, more or less. So there, in the archives, you can find a number of things that we have been trying to publish over this, what is it, 6, 7 months. So, of course, we can't cover everything, but it's a way to find ways further if you're interested in a special issue. And so I recommend the archives, and not. Then I will do the most tricky part, to use the search engine. What can I possibly find? And do we find other things here than on Google? Well, partly we find the same things, of course, but there should be high rating for things that touches upon the societal development in Finland and Sweden, or comparisons between Sweden and Finland, because I think that's a crucial part of the idea of the Addeto, namely to facilitate making of comparisons. And that's also a way that we could be useful, you could say. So I will make a test one. I'm right now preparing a conference about minorities in the North. And then, of course, it's natural to touch upon a concept like, let's see if I spell it, Miankieli. Is it correctly spelled? Miankieli? Let's go for it, see what's happened. Yeah, so then you can get these kind of hits. And you also, in many cases, can find full text versions, or at least you can find the links to where a publication could be found. So this is one example of what you can find. See if we have some full text version. Here Jonas has been adding something, and here is, let's go for this one. Could this possibly be? It takes some time. We are still, yeah, of course, we are in Tornio, more or less. And here we have a PhD dissertation from Helsinki. So with an abstract that I can't understand, that you can. So this is the way that we can use. And let's try one more. Taking one, let's look at it like this. I have been trying before, of course. I don't wanted to take all the possible risks. Now I'm writing socialt kapital in Swedish. If we should add Finland as well, see what's happening. There are some hits if you're interested in social capital, and there are comparisons also with the European level. But this is the idea with the search engine. There are some and we have in our own database right now, I think it's about 4,000 titles that we have been going through and that are tagged, so it should be possible to find. There was an idea also from the beginning that we should publish in digital version all the relevant books that are only analog, that are never going to be digitalized. So we have a number of our products that we have digitalized ourselves. For instance, a number of anthologies regarding historical and social science and language research on Sweden and Finland from a big research program that was running from 2000 to 2003. I don't dare to say the name in Finnish, but my colleague Torbjörn Eng can give the Finnish name of the research program. No, he didn't dare to do it. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Litva. So this is part of the facilities that we are offering, and well, one crucial thing with this product is, of course, that it's used. And how can we make it be more and more used? It is, of course, if we can have a good content. And that's why we have been using journalists to try to map what's happening in the countries right now, what interesting books and reports have been published, etc., and to put it and update it weekly. That's one part of the business plan, you could say. Another part is that we have, let's call that online activities, but we also would like to have offline activities in order to get interesting results on the portal. And that was the main idea from my side when I discussed this first with Ritva Mitchell and then with Anita. As I've been working quite a lot with culture policy research as a research financer, not as a researcher, I thought it would be of great interest to see how much are we alike in Sweden and Finland when it comes to culture policy. Because I had the impression that we are working in a direction towards much more regional influence in Sweden, in Swedish culture policy. And I just tested the idea with Ritva and Anita, and then I got the impression maybe it's worth to have a discussion on this. This is one of the important part of this seminar in order to increase the knowledge in both countries about culture policy and new trends and what do we know. Are we alike? This idea with two sides of the same coin, is that, how much is that valid to say? Are we very much alike, or are there different trends? And what do you researchers say about what challenges are ahead and what's happening right now? So that was the idea from our side in order to have this kind of activity, then to have a possibility to discuss these issues for you that are professional in the field, but also to get interesting contents in the portal on culture policy, because we have very little about that. And as I've been trying to promote funding of that research in Sweden, I had a personal interest. Let's have some more on this on the portal, because it's now lacking, more or less. So in the future, I think that we're likely to have some similar activities also in connection with some university about some theme, you could say. But for the time being, this is the latest, not the last one, but next year, hopefully we will have some activities in Sweden in connection with some theme that is going to be covered for Addeto and to be video filmed, etc., etc. So that was the idea by putting culture policy so much in focus. And of course, how do you do when you want to find some interesting to show? You call your old friends. That's what friends are for, to use a famous song title. So that was, I think, the presentation that I would like to give. And I also want to say that after Reetta Kettunen from our steering committee, we also have a historical part of this conference. And that's not only due to my historic background as historian, because I thought that there might be of some interest to see. I mean, you have a common background up to 1809 in Sweden and Finland. What about the administrative structures of the countries? What similarities and what differences have occurred since, some people sometimes say the divorce between Sweden and Finland, but it was really a breaking up, a clash, you could say. It was not a divorce where both parts were, unanimous leaving the marriage, so to say. But the historical backgrounds, I think, is very interesting. So that's why we asked Petri Karonen that he will later start in Finland, and he will be having some comments from Torbjörn Eng. But before that, I'm happy to leave the floor to Reetta Kettunen from the Committee for Public Information.
So, from my part, I wish you all very welcome, and I'm very happy to be here. So I'm Reetta Kettunen, I'm the Secretary General for the Committee for Public Information in Finland. That's tiedon julkistamisen neuvottelukunta in Finnish. TJNK is the acronym. And as you see, that actually I'm now on a sabbatical, vuorotteluvapaalla, till August. And if I seem to be a little bit disminded, it might be that half of my brain is at least on the sabbatical mode at the moment. And I want to tell you something about our Committee for Public Information. And I'm also happy to tell that Sari Karttunen, one of the members of our committee, is also here and active on this seminar. And then tell a little bit about the science communication and the importance of knowledge sharing. And then, because this is about culture, and then I try to, and our committee is mainly focusing on the science communication. In the end, I try to kind of convince that they are culture, arts, science, they are not separated from each other. They are kind of similar things anyway. But I want to first make some product placements. So I want to mention you about the forthcoming Turku International Book Fair and Science Fair in October, just because we are now in Jyväskylä. And I know that Jyväskylä has been a central and key actor in Finland if you think about educating teachers. Like my grandmother has been a teacher, educated here in Jyväskylä, doing her life work in those tiny, tiny village schools like in Koivujärvi and Kaavi, which are in the Savolax. So this is a central part in Finland that I think we own a lot to Jyväskylä in that sense that the teachers have done a lot of work then and nowadays. Just that Finland has become the knowledge-based society we are today. So thank you, Jyväskylä. And the reason I wanted to take this up, especially with regards to Jyväskylä, is that next fall the themes in Turku will be Homo ludens, the leikkivä ihminen, so the playful men. And we also take, in the science fair, we take the games and learning as the topics. So how we use game in teaching, how we how we can use games in the lifelong learning. So these kind of things, that if you have something that you want to come and present in Turku, please contact me. I'm also the chair for the committee for the Behind the Science Fair in Turku. And the next product placement is just about the forthcoming World Conference for Science Journalists in Helsinki. So these are the things that I'm now doing on my sabbatical. I'm working for especially for this latter, the World Conference for Science Journalists. But then a few words about our Committee for Public Information that I work as a Secretary General. And that's the expert body for the Ministry of Education and Culture. And our task is to follow the progress in research, arts and technology and the development of knowledge in Finland and abroad. So here again, we have the terms science and arts and technology in one vision sentence. So they are all together combined. This vision or this sentence was written in 1972 when our committee was founded. And it was a very innovative phrase at that time, even though the word innovation was not used as much as it's today. And what the tasks are, yearly we make the shortlist for the candidates for State Award for Public Information. That's tiedon julkistamisen valtionpalkinnot. We also award grants for information products. And we make the list of domestic quality non-fiction entitling libraries for acquisition support. That means that the libraries get some money to buy non-fiction titles from the lists that we are combining. And in addition, the committee, we coordinate the Finnish Science and Technology Information Service, research.fi. And of course, as an expert body, we give our opinion to the ministry and we make proposals and take initiatives on the topics that fall within our quite broad field of activities. If you think about the thematic theme that I told you, science, arts and technology, so we have a broad area that we are trying to cover. And also our committee have some responsibilities in the European Union framework program for research and innovation, namely in one of the programs, Science in Society. But now a few words about science communication. And that's one way of dividing science communication. With the upper heading, science communication, we have the scientific communication, and then we have the science communication. Scientific communication is usually when we are communicating the results, research results within the peers, within the scientific committee. Also, it can be transfer of scientific knowledge to various end users, decision makers, industry. Also, professionals like teachers need this kind of information just to keep up. Science communication, tiedeviestintä, is composed of science journalism, science communication. This PUS is public understanding of science. That used to be the older term. Now we want to talk about public engagement in science. So science communication is never one way. It's a two-way communication, a dialogue. And then a new growing phenomenon within the science communication is the PR for science and research and development. That's sometimes it's not even science communication in the way that it's more marketing, but it still falls into the science communication. But when we are talking about science communication, we are talking about a lot of things which deals with the spreading of knowledge sharing. And we know that this is not easy, and it's never been done as efficiently as it should be done. And I took a quotation of the evaluation of the previous framework program. Now we are on the end of framework program period 7, and this is still valid at this moment. And now when we are moving at the European level to the next framework program, you can see that there are even more emphasis and more things have been developed during this phase. And there is a lot and lots that should be done to increase the sharing of knowledge. And now when we are next year, there will be the Horizon 2020 will begin, and that's the framework program for research and innovation in the European Union. We are not talking about anymore about the framework program 8, it's Horizon 2020. And one of the key tasks behind everything is how to disseminate information. So how we can bridge the Grand Canyon. It's kind of a referred, you have the knowledge producers here, the scientists, and then you have the end users. And here you have the Grand Canyon. And that's kind of an in-house talking now that people are using. They are not talking about a gap or something. They are really saying it's a Grand Canyon. And we have to take every effort that are needed just to kind of spread the knowledge, get over the Grand Canyon. And since we are on the digital era, we hear this kind of big sentences like data is the next gold. And that means that the importance of knowledge sharing, it's becoming more and more important. So it's a key European research area objective, thus affecting our science policy fields in Finland and also in Sweden. And there is a strong political will to help the knowledge sharing. We all know the measures, e-science, different networks on the web, grids, etc. We know the terms open access, that's really happening. We talk about open data, sharing of already existing data. And these are also the phenomena that kind of belong to science communication at large. So these efforts are something that we try to do, and our committee tries to promote in our actions as well. And just quickly through some of the actions that our Committee for Public Information is doing, I already said that we are coordinating the web portal research.fi, that we are actually at the moment of rebuilding, and that should mimic Forskning.se in a way that our funding won't be as much as you have in Sweden, but that is what we try to do. We try to make it as a gateway to Finnish research and Finnish science research and development field. Give some background information, give key indicators for our field, but also try to develop the portal so that it also combines the news. It's kind of a way for science communication. And at the moment we have a proposition inside the Ministry of Education and Culture to get more funding, and we'll see what happens. But getting new money at the moment, everybody knows it's a bit tough thing to do. Anyway, some parts of the new research.fi web portal should be launched next summer. But since I'm on the sabbatical, I'm not so updated on that, but that's at least the goal, to get it going. And then one of the recent things that our committee published is a Science Communication Action Plan. Tiede kuuluu kaikille, so science is everybody's business. It was published in 2013. It contains 33 recommendations to universities, to research funding agencies, of what we should do, what kind of actions should be promoted, just to provide some of the means of bridging the Grand Canyon I was telling you. By the way, this is in Swedish as well, so it's translated into Swedish. And one of the major tasks that we set is that we have to, in Finland, we have to start to make the evaluation framework for societal relevance for research and science, so that when the scientists are working, they don't have to be worried about are they spending their times correctly, if they are doing science communication, if they are trying to kind of outreach the other public, not just their peers. So this is what's one of the major tasks. This is just to remind that we have a high trust within the Finnish society to science. So there are national institutions and universities. They are at the top 3 level of the national institutions Finnish people trust. So there is only police and then the army that are more trustworthy. And this trust has been a very permanent one. So this science barometer is done every 3 years, and it seems that the university, we are there up, highly believed. And this is also something that if we want to have the high trust in science, then we need the good quality science communication in all levels. And then the last part, I just wanted to tell you that science and culture, arts, they interwined, they are kind of combined together. And the action plan also states that science communication requires new means of delivering. So we need new technical solutions, we need web portals, but we have to learn from ways of doing arts. And we have a picture here from the last Tieteenpäivät in January. Tieteenpäivät is the biannual science festival in Finland, and there we had the play. The Teatterivirus they showed us a 20-minute play about how to prevent diabetes type 2. And that was really something new in a way that it was written jointly with one of the science journalists specializing in health topics and the scientists themselves. And it was really science communication on stage. This is what we need to learn and try to do together. And I strongly believe that this kind of means, they kind of get the audience that wouldn't otherwise be reached. And this is something kind of struck me when I saw it on the first time. Every time we are communicating whatever, we should concentrate on the joint thing that's kind of interests us all. And in science and in arts, we have the wonders that we can kind of communicate together. Thank you.
Let's take some questions.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you to my colleague in the project, if I may say so, Reta, for your interesting comments. So we can now take some questions if you would like to address me and Reta and maybe some other of the projects, because we are some of the project here in the room. So a few questions we really would appreciate. And I just want to stress that, of course, we want to make this portal used. And today, actually, we are opening a forum on the portal that's completely empty. So if you have your computers with you, you could be the first to put something on the forum. Not just telling that we had a lot of snow in Jyväskylä this morning, that I suggested to my colleagues, maybe I should write something. But, so we have a forum now, and the forum is going to be in English. So to facilitate, we couldn't manage to have Swedish and Finnish on that, so we have an English-speaking forum that's opening today, as a matter of fact. So any questions to me and Ritva?
Thank you very much.
I will run with the mic. I'm a good runner. I was.
Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation to two of you. But you said that you are a project, and you are actually building up a fantastic information system. I was impressed to hear that you started in August and you already have 4,000 titles, for example, in publications and books and whatever you try to do. But what happens if the funding stops in 2 years' time? I've seen too many wonderful projects to then die out. I know that your projects don't, because they all live forever.
Well, we have for the time being, we have a plan that we should try to secure funding at least to 2018. But of course, we can't keep on just applying for grants as we have been doing. So we are going to approach also the Swedish government, for instance, because it's not, right now it's in the hands of a foundation. Yeah, by the foundation, but we have grants from a number of financiers, but it's managed by the Kulturfonden for Sverige and Finland, and they have said that we promise to keep the project, well, the Addeto, at least until 2018, because you're completely correct in putting that question. What's happening once you don't have the funding anymore? So that we have a long-term strategy that we have to try to keep this.
You took up the important question of all the time, that you have the project money is easy to get, not even easy to get, but that's easier than getting the permanent funding, but that's what's needed. And so everybody here, if you know anybody, just whisper to the ears that these kind of permanent funding mechanisms are greatly needed. We have to find the money.
I know, I haven't experienced it for 10 years.
So correctly, it's rather normal when research financiers set up institutes, etc., with restricted budget and just for some years, what's happening then? But there is not always somebody that take over. So we are fully aware of that. So we are working on that. But of course, we have spent a lot of work and a lot of money, I must say. And I also, well, I hate to say this, but it has been easier in Sweden to find funding for this than in Finland. And we have been applying to a number of foundations in Finland, and we have contacted Finland's Academy also. So, but we are still working. So the new applications is going to be produced by me and translated to perfect Finnish and whatever that takes. Maybe there are the ideas that are not strong enough, but hopefully. But we are working for it. Some more questions, comments? Yeah, Ritva. Yeah.
Because you were here, 2 organizations, and so do you have plans to somehow collaborate with her body? And because you are doing a lot of similar type of work, of course very different, but you are online and giving information and spreading information on scientific research. That would give you a very good collaboration.
Yeah, we have on a personal level, but on the funding level, not so far. But of course, we, as I tried to describe in the beginning, we don't want to invent the wheel that's already there. So that's why we have Rita and her organization on the steering committee, as well as we have Forskning.se also on the steering committee. So we have been, I won't say stealing, but we have borrowed a lot of knowledge from the friends that we have put on the board.